Okay. Are we back? Are we live? It's hard to tell with the delay sometimes. All good? Oh, Ian. Well, sorry, you just missed Audio 101, man. But it should... All right, excellent. Thank you. Boosh, man, staff. Boosh. Sayaluna. Yes, live. Awesome. Thank you. So cool. All right. Well, we're back. Thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Beetle Jace. If you ever want more audio, video, in fact, I'll be doing more streaming today on my channel after the Adobe channel. Please follow me. I am Beetle Jace here on Twitch. And always doing interesting audio and video stuff and motion graphics too. Okay, so we're going to get out of Audition here and let's go over to Premiere Pro. And I won't save any of that. Actually, nah. And let's go into Premiere. All right. Terrific, Ian. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so that was fun. I hope you enjoyed that. I've been asked recently a lot about doing those very things, and you know what? I had disconnected a drive and forgot to unplug it, which is partly why there was so much noise. I'll have to restart this drive. So what we're going to do now for the next hour and 50 minutes, you will remember that we were working on yet another Lost Fuzzy Island take that I had filmed a couple years ago. Dill Bill, how's it going? We will continue with that now. And more importantly, we're going to integrate some 4K close-ups via some upscaled content that I did with Detail Preserving Upscale in After Effects. So we were talking about this last week and how all of this was shot, shot 1080 and 1080p and 720p. We'd already upscaled the 720 to 1080. And it's just a 2-camera shoot, so there's not a lot you can really do. And this is a very simple. It's a 2-man performance. It's acoustic folk music. I mean, not trying to make it crazy. We were experimenting a little bit with some overlays and some different types of things here. That's what you're seeing right there. I thought maybe we'd start by playing where we left off, so you can guys. It's only about 3 minutes. If you guys want to hear, hey Iori, how are you doing? Would I recommend what? So would you like to see where we left the actual video, what we produced Friday? And this is where I left it on Friday. I just wound up doing the export after the stream. Oh, look at that. It's 2 minutes and 11 seconds. All right. Cool. All right. Well, let's take a look then. So here, I'll remove my camera so you can actually see it here. And this just has, as we mentioned, it's got a couple little inserts that we did with some of those effects. I think we also I applied some of the noise and scratches, kind of dirty it up, make it look a little more 70s, which it kind of is. We obviously did an input LUT to flatten out the original very highly colored, highly contrasted image, and then graded this to give it a bit more of those warm earth tones. Again, kind of a more 70s acoustic vibe.
I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, I could weep like a willow, crying to my pillow. Honey, that would never do. I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. I don't go walking in the rain anymore. I don't share my New York Times Sunday puzzle too. I don't do anything we used to do before. if it reminds me, dear, of you. I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, I could weep like a willow, crying to my pillow. Honey, that would never do. I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. I used to like you, really used to like you. I got over that somehow. I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now? It ain't productive just a hanging in bars, but
And the reason the camera's not changing here is that we ran out of angle, if you'll remember.
Thinking again of you. Drinking again, thinking again of you.
Okay, put my camera back on. So that's where we left off. Now, we were talking about on Friday, where, because again, we'd run out of footage. The camera, the front camera had stopped. And so we only had the side camera. And I was saying, well, we have 2 other takes. And tempo-wise, they're pretty close. We could probably kind of fly them in. And maybe if we kind of went extreme with some, like, very vignetted, weavy... I mean, you could dirty it up so where if the sync wasn't exact, stylistically, it would probably fit. Or another technique, which we'll probably do some of now, is you can fly in another angle that's kind of in the same tempo, kind of in the same space, but then time remap it a little, slow it down. Or slow it down and zoom in a little. So it kind of offsets, or even something that it could even be, you blur and then you go in and out of blur, just as B-roll, just to change up the scene. And then cut back to that side camera again. It doesn't last too long, but just something to change it up. And then sync isn't quite so important. So we're going to play around with some of that. Oh, you love the sound of a hand slide on the court? Yeah. It's really funny you say that, Siluna, because a couple years ago, there was a VST plugin, actually. I don't remember who made it now. To remove string noise, And it's one of those things, we've talked about this before. I've said it a lot. Audio nerds. And choose your nerdery, right? I mean, I'm definitely an audio nerd. I'm also kind of a video nerd. For sure, a camera and lens nerd. But at the top of my nerd pyramid is audio. Audio nerds are really, if you think, and sure, there's illustration and, any kind of creative discipline. You've all got your kind of hardcore users. And audio nerds are kind of the worst. They really are, because they're so particular about so many things. And again, as you saw, just like recording a microphone, 80 steps just to gain stage it right if you really want to be that, fastidious and crazy about it. But, I totally forgot my point there. I was talking something about audio nerds, different types of nerdery. I don't remember. I was looking at this, I'm going, I wonder how I could stylize that. And I just lost the thought. That's what happens. That's what happens when you get older. It sucks. On that note, that look, yes. What's happening? Okay, that looks legit. Is that digital or actually old scan film to get the scratch effects? So this particular overlay, these are digitally generated scratches, and this is a 2K ProRes overlay from Rampant Design. Elsewhere throughout the whole film, you're seeing scratches and noise and dust, and that's a plugin that digitally generates that, called Misfire, which is part of Red Giant. And then the grain that I was showing on Shortened Bread last week. One of these have the grain. This one, yeah, you can actually see this really tasty looking grain on here. Probably can't really see it very well. That is actually, someone did a 16 mil scan. Like they actually created this overlay. So it was sourced from an original analog source, which is pretty cool. It wasn't digitally generated, which is kind of neat. I do a lot of that for my stills. I have a lot of old film that I've blank negatives that I've scanned and then inverted to keep the scratch and the dust, and then overlay it on top of stills, and it's really super cool. So, that's what I was saying. Yes, Siluna, thank you. So there was a plugin that was used to remove the string noise, and I was saying that audio nerds, like, there was a time when if you heard the of the strings, you're like, oh, the recording is ruined, and you'd spend a lot of time tweaking and messing around with the EQ to remove or fix that sound. That's the sound of acoustic instruments. Don't remove that. I can remember myself doing some album. It's got to be like 2000 or 2001. And the guitar player had new strings, so everything was like, it was a little too much, and he was very movie, so it was, and the strings were like, they were cheap, so it was almost irritating, but that's the sound. So the only way to really combat that was to mic it in such a way down towards the bottom, towards the bell of the guitar, so that really you picked up a lot of the bass, a lot of the low end fundamentals, and less of the string buzz and string attack. Because EQ wise, there just wasn't much that you could do. And then they came out with this plugin that would try and find those, because if you isolate them spectrally, that's what it sounds like, and it would try and take those out. But I'd rather just leave it. Exactly. That's exactly what makes it unique. No, you're so right. So it's just funny though how, not unlike adding noise and grain and all this stuff back into what is now digital HD video, we're kind of audio's kind of embracing the same thing now, where we're kind of leaving even like noise removal back in the earlier days of audio restoration. And I was one of the first in that scene of digital remastering engineers, where we would denoise something from an analog recording and take all of the hiss out, all of the noise, and that's great. Except that there's a lot of stuff, a lot of frequency, goodness that lives up there. So if you take it out, you end up with a very flat, lifeless sounding recording, and that's why a lot of those, my network keeps going in and out here, a lot of those late 80s and early 90s CDs or recordings that were remastered then, they sound so bad because the thinking around how to make something better digitally was basically, there was one formula: no hiss. That's how they sold digital to people in the early mid 80s. Like, that's how they tried to move people from records and tapes to CD. They're like, well, there's no hiss. That was kind of the whole selling point. Oh, and that you could skip tracks without having to rewind, right? So you could skip tracks and there was no hiss. That was kind of it. All right. Yeah. Yeah, CBR, the little flickers and the vignette. Yeah, I mean, that's all part of it. And again, it's a variety of different plugins and things. Okay, IRE was asking, would you recommend a simple, cheap USB sound adapter as an external sound card? I just need 5.1 to get rid of the noise and distortions from onboard sound. IRE, you will hear me say all these things in that last broadcast exactly. Yeah, I mean, a good USB external, and by cheap, I don't know what the cheapest ones you can find these days. I can tell you that the M-Audio Fast Track, and there's like a Fast Track Pro. Now these are like single input or dual input. They all have stereo output. And some, now 5.1, now you're getting kind of expensive because there aren't too many that do. Maybe there's some consumery ones. Most of the Pro ones, if you need 6 outputs, those get a little bit more expensive. But if you just need stereo, the M-Audio Fast Track are real nice. And they might actually, I think one of them has SpeedIF. So if you only need 5.1 out, I believe they can do SpeedIF out with 5.1. You're good to go, or optical. So check that out. But and they're like $100 US, and they're pretty nice. It will definitely be an improvement over onboard sound, though. I can almost guarantee that. Boar Bingo Boy. I'm not sure if you like the White Dots old movie imitation, but this is nice. Yeah, no, that's one of the things. So yeah, I mean, and I varied it here. It wasn't final, but I can control the amount of and the color of the, so there's black dust and white dust. So you can see I have far less white dust. I actually generally bring that down even a little more. I like the presence of it occasionally. You can actually see on this stopped frame, you can see the 3 that it allows to happen at one time. So, but yeah, it's just, excuse me, just in a way to kind of stylize it and give it an older feeling. I think it still looks good. I don't think it's cheesed up, but you're right. I think I could probably minimize it even more. Maybe drop the white dust down to one fleck at a time, and maybe increase the frequency, and that'll kind of give it a slightly more authentic kind of feel. All right. So let's see. Maybe a card if it's a tower. Sorry, I keep hitting the... Oh, that's okay, Irie. Yeah, no. I mean, it doesn't have to be... That's just it. And yes, a PCI Express card or something like that, yes. And we were talking before about, like, Sound Blasters. Sound Blasters were... I mean, I'm sure they still have a current equivalent, a very inexpensive alternative to getting, like, 5.1 on a single card for, $100 or whatever it was. So, yeah, you definitely have options if you've got a tower, for sure. Like I said, most of the USB, FireWire... USB 3, Thunderbolt, external devices. Once you get beyond sort of 4 channels, they start to get a little expensive. So, yeah. But the internal cards tend to be a little cheaper, i.e. Sound Blaster and things of that nature. Mad Mips, the coffee's not working. You're telling me. Sheesh. I'm going to need to make a run in a second, as a matter of fact. Less than $50 sound card. I'm not even sure. I mean, I'm sure there are probably onboard ones that are that inexpensive. I just offhand I don't know of any. Maybe someone here can chime in for you. Okay. So now that you've seen the edit, so basically, because this was, as we mentioned, confined to the 2 cameras, and then at the end here, we totally, in fact, here, if we go to the master layout, you can actually see for the last... 12:18. Yeah, I mean, we have like the last minute. We only have that side camera. We lost the front camera. So that's where again we can maybe take some of that front camera from another take, try and match it up, maybe slow it down a little, or maybe fly in some random zooms, or play around with kind of light leak things to kind of intercut faces. Just to change the edit around. You're just trying to make it kind of move. I mean, it's a minute, so that's kind of a long time for B-roll. But, we'll see what we can do. All right. So I want to work with 4K because what I want to do is I want to have sections where I can bring in some zooms. Now, before I do anything, because we've got all this, we've got grading, we've got all these effects. This is the multicam edit that we're looking at here, by the way. So if I put on our multicam viewer... and I have, sorry, I've got all the tracks turned off here. Okay. What was I just lost it again? Oh my god, my brain is like not working. I'm going to bring the 4K into this timeline, but I don't want all the effects and everything on here because it's going to make it very difficult for me to edit and cut with all this stuff on there. So I'm going to disable our Lumetri grade, and I'm going to disable all of the overlaid effects, the dust, the flicker, and the micro scratches. And I'm also going to take it out of full and go into quarter res. This is just going to give me, again, better performance so that I can kind of zip around in here and not be confined to having to try and play back all this heavy GPU-based content, all right? For whatever reason, I'm not playing back at this very second. So you will see I will do what I did last week, which is switch from software back into GPU via CUDA. There we go. I tried to link a real good deal to a Yamaha AG03. It's great. Ah, okay, there you go. Well, AB94, yeah, if you can ask. Oh yeah, there, CBR's got you. Hey Neil, thanks so much. Thanks for coming today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so maybe that Yamaha one is a good. I know, not Logitech. Lexicon used to make a pretty inexpensive. It was like an 8-channel device USB for like, maybe it was 110. It was less than 150. It was very cheap, and it was pretty good. So that might be something to think about. Okay. Now, so I took the original cameras. If we just take a look here, you can see their names. All right. I took these original cameras, and through After Effects, I did a detail preserving upscale. So I've shown this a couple times. I'm not going to show it right now, but it's a way to go from 1080 to 4K, or whatever you want, to whatever frame size you need to export into. And I did those, and let me see if I can reveal in Finder. So when I did that, and I like to show this to just kind of give people an idea. So this is, and I just did the take itself, which is about 2.5 minutes, or 2 minutes. It's actually on this on the 7D. It's not. It's like 1.5 minutes or something. So when I took that 1080 footage and converted it to 4K, the file size was like 15 gigs. Okay. Now that's like, if you're working in 8K, you're going, ha 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 ha. That's 15 gigs. Ah, that's not even a minute in 8K. It's not. That's how scary 8K is. It's wonderful, but it's heavy. You need a super machine to really work in 8K. But so 4K with 14 gig file, and then I did the same on the G12. Now that was a 720 to 4K upscale. That's pretty massive, and I don't know how much of that. I worked on it a little. It looks okay. It does indeed get a bit soft when you go much beyond 1080, even though I tried to account by adding a little more sharpness and a little denoising on it. But similarly here, this file, which was only 40 seconds longer or whatever, compressed to around 14.6 gigs. So this is pretty heavy media. So what I actually did was I went into the version of Premiere that's coming very soon and actually created proxies, and you can see those here. And these are ProRes 422 LT proxies. Now normally your proxy, you'd keep it in a smaller frame size as well to really get this file size down. I kept these at 4K res because the timelines are already 1080. We're not working in a 4K timeline, but I didn't want to have to squeeze everything down and then blow the footage up, because I just figured it would just be, it wasn't going to look as good. It would be harder for me to edit it in comfortably. I probably could have done it, to be honest with you. I don't know why I made them 4K, but I wound up keeping them the same frame size. And it wound up dropping the file size in half just by going to LT versus 422 HQ. All right, so those are two different flavors of ProRes, if you were wondering about that. So those are actually the versions we're going to bring in here. We're going to work off of the proxies, and then we can relink to the 4K masters when we're ready to export. So they're not going to look as brilliant. They're not going to look as sharp, obviously, but performance-wise, moving inside the timeline, it'll be a lot easier to navigate. So we're going to start. I'm going to take the 7D cam, all right, and I'm going to drag this down into the timeline here. Okay. Now, and you can actually see it right there. So now we're taking a look. This is that. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So this is that camera, but now 4K inside of 1080, and you can even see just like this. Now the moiraying, again, this was in the shot. That's not the upscale doing it. It looks surprisingly clean. I mean, if we could actually fit it, again, that's taking up the whole 1080 frame. But you can see that in terms of if I wanted to do a zoom or just focus more on the guitar playing, we now have some latitude to do that. And of course, we can move this around, and that is ultimately what we will do, and reposition this accordingly. All right. Cool. All right. Oh, is stuff happening with the permits? Nightbot is out for blood. Okay. All right. Now, before we do anything, of course, what we need to really do here is synchronize the audio. Now, I've shown this a bunch of times where, obviously we can do this manually, or we can also use the auto function. Now, often what it'll do, or what I like to do, especially with something like this, when we're in a multicam view, and you can actually, I mean, the truth is, and I talk about this a lot, right? Like, we're pretty much there. I mean, you can see, it's really just as easy to do this, I was going to use the auto synchronize function, but you almost don't even have to, just because you can see it. Sometimes it's just not as obvious, but, you know, there, we're now in sync. Like, that's it, you know. And again, we can spot check. Always look for, like, sharp attacks and things that you can find kind of solid transients, and it looks good to me. Again, if we look in these sections here, I must have done a little percussive thing on the bass. It looks good, all right? Had we not done that, I could also select both audio files and just choose synchronize, and it would have done the same thing via audio sync, and it would have resynced the audio together. Okay, I didn't actually anticipate the visual being so easy. What button shows only one window? Shortcut. Are you talking about full screen? So this is now this is on a US keyboard, so this is only going to be relative to the US keyboard, but it's the tilde key. So if you hover your mouse over any panel, and this goes for all the video apps, and I think for the design ones too, hover over any panel, hit the tilde key, and it'll make that full screen. Okay. Yep. JK Digi's got it. Same for UK, Ian Livesey. All right. There's no tilde key like in that location. You know, US keyboard, it's it's here, just below escape, right? It's that one right there. But of course, like on the Swedish keyboard, you don't have that. I mean, it's not even a tilde. It's some other key with some other character that does the same thing. So similarly with the Japanese keyboard, it's kind of different. Which is why I say I know so few shortcuts, because for a long time when we'd go to various regions around the world, we'd have to use software in the native version, native language, and the shortcuts don't work. But the menu items are always the same. Okay, so now that we've got this in there, what do we want to do? All right, so we're gonna we need to find kind of, well, where do we want to fly this stuff in? Oh, and by the way, you can see that I've got that kind of overall grade applied to all of the multicam cut that we had done earlier. Ultimately, I want this 7D cam here, and in fact, I'm going to lock this. I want that to be affected by the same grade. So really, I probably want to move this up and replace this one here. But that's okay, we can do that later. You'll also notice, by the way, that this footage I exported with the input LUT. So remember, this is what this was the look of the original footage, how it was shot here. Okay. You know, very, very green and saturated with just, I mean, this was what the room looked like. And then this is here, if we just scale this to frame size for a second, you know, that's what it looks like with the input LUT, right? Flat and creamy, you know, with some shadow definition. So now we can add color back in, okay? So that's the difference between, so it's the same footage, but when I created the 4K version, I ran a Lumetri LUT on the export as well, okay? I could have done it after the fact. I chose to do it right as I was upscaling to 4K, because then I can really roll this footage in, apply that overall grade that we know we like, and it's just going to work. I don't have to treat this any further, which is like kind of a nice step. All right, sweet. Okay, so what I will often do is I'll just drop the opacity, because this is meant to be an insert, right? What we're really looking to do here is find a section where we want to do a zoom, and then we'll sort of cut this in, okay? We'll cut it into place. So what I will typically do is start with opacity and just drag the opacity all the way down until I actually want this footage to be shown. And then we'll sort of we'll take it from there, okay? All right, so let me see. Oh, and let's bring in the other footage as well. Let's go ahead and grab the G12 proxy. Now this one, like I said, I don't know how much of this we're likely to use. Probably not as much. I mean, it's not bad. You can see it's a little soft there. It's kind of got a slightly weird look. Check that scale off. Hold on, some scrubbing through here. All right. So there's that zoomed. Okay. It's not bad. I mean, that's 720 to 4K. All right, which is pretty nuts. Let's go ahead and sync it as well. I'm curious. Let's do an auto sync on this. I'm going to sync these two together. Let's see what happens. This could... Oh, it's not even going to... Look at it. It's not even going to let me do that. Interesting. I wonder if it's going to let me do this. I wonder why it's not letting me do that. That's curious. Huh. And yet, will it let me synchronize to that? It will. Well, you know what? I'm going to see. Let's see. Let's do all three of these. Oh, hold on. Before I do that. Hey, Legacy. See, it's not even necessary, though, because, again, this is all so easy to see. I don't want it to unnecessarily start moving things around. And there, I just kind of nailed it just by clicking sort of arbitrarily. Okay, let's see if we move this a frame. Yeah, have it start a little bit early. That's cool. Yeah, that's fine. And we'll mute this. And we'll mute this too. All right. All right. Busy Bee Legacy, yes indeed. All right. Okay. And we want to do the same thing here. Take the opacity and just drop it all the way down. Until I ultimately want to use it. I really don't know how much of this cam we're going to wind up using. Probably use the front cam more than that side cam. Okay. But what we need to do is kind of mark where we might want to do some zooms, right? An area where, you know, I've got a couple, we've got cuts in here, but some other place where it would be appropriate to fly in another angle, just to kind of change up the visual. 4K, yes indeed. Yeah, and here, let me show you too, now that that's in there. Like this one, to me, this is kind of the most, this is the coolest, because so this is, now again, originally 720p. Now you're looking at that at 25, now it's 4K. So you're looking at a 4K, and this is, by the way, this is the Proxy. This isn't even the full resolution version. So you're even seeing a lower res version of this upscale. It looks pretty tight. I mean, this was originally 720, scaled up to 4K, but we're only looking at it at 25% right now. So if we go to 50%, okay. Now again, you're starting to see a little bit of blockiness. It's getting a little soft here. Some of those digital artifacts of those less than great earlier consumer 720p H.264 codecs, you know, you're getting some of this kind of aliasing around the mic stand here. This is actually 100%. So that's 100%. But again, we're not showing this in 4K. The idea is that we blew it up so that we could move around accordingly. And if you threw some grain on this, and again some scratches, and actually put a grade on here, I can tell you that it's, while it might be a little softer and it's going to look, you know, not as sharp, or certainly not shot in 4K, it can work. You know, you can work it in, and it just, yeah, it's astonishing how good detail preserving upscale is. And when you look far away, it's not bad. Well, that's kind of the thing. That's it. I mean, even upscaling, you know, from 720 to 1080, it was pretty damn good. but up to 4K, I mean, it's pretty shocking. And that's the thing is, we blow it up so that ultimately we're delivering it in a smaller window, but we just have the flexibility to kind of move around. So let's start by playing back here and figuring out where we might want to insert some zooms, okay? I think the actual start time is here. I'm just going to check my prefs here. And you know what I'm going to do? Okay, that all looks good. Now you can see your output routing here. Yeah, so there's 20 outputs on the Thunderbolt. So yeah, it can get pretty intense. All right, let's play this back and see where we might want to stick in just a little zoom. And the idea is we're going to cut to it to show something interesting. If we're not playing anything interesting, no reason to cut to it. All right, so let's take a look. Oh, and for whatever reason, that's coming through sort of heavy. So let me do this too, just to remove any of the overhead. And I'm doing that really because I've been exporting and stuff all morning, and I did a quick restart, but then I had to leverage some GPU again. Just to give us better scrubbing performance while we're in this mode here, okay? That's my running.
I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, I could weep like a willow, crying to my pillow. Honey, that
I'm not really seeing any opportunities just yet.
I'm drinking again, thinking again of you.
This is a nice long dissolve here. Hey, Minecraft.
Walking in the rain anymore.
And we're dropping frames, that's okay. Again, that's my drive that this footage is coming off of. Really should move that at some point.
I don't do anything we used to do before.
Okay, so like right there, it's a bit obscured by the microphone stands here, but we're kind of not going anywhere for a while. So this could be an opportunity where we might, and by the way, we're also almost out of that other camera. So we definitely want to cut something in before the opportunity no longer presents itself. So let's wind back a little bit here. I mean a section where I didn't play a bad note. Not that anybody would really know. Remember, it's not a bad note. There are no bad notes, only tensions.
Puzzle 2. I don't do anything we used to do before. If it
yeah, so maybe
I don't do anything. Don't do any.
Okay. So maybe now what we'll do is something like this. Now often what I will do here is I'll stick a cut where I want that to sort of be inserted, all right?
Anything we used to do before. If it
and then maybe we'll cut back right there. Okay, so just very briefly insert this piece, all right? So we'll add a cut right there. Okay. Now, once I've done that, of course, whoops. Oh, did I not do 2 cuts? I guess I didn't, doofus. Oh, I did, right here. If I just bring the opacity back up here, of course, now this will replace, turn the track back on, this will replace the footage in that scene. Okay, now we're not going to cut it in like that quite so abruptly, and we can also reframe this and move it around. Let me just take a look and see.
My New York Town Sunday puzzle 2. I don't do anything we used to.
All right. So first thing, let's come over here. All right. So repositioning. Oh, and I'm right at the edge there. So
I don't do anything we used to do. I don't do anything we do anything.
okay, actually want it to be there. So that's okay. We'll just do another cut right there, a little bit sooner.
Do anything we
Okay, we got to match the settings here. So I'm going to copy this, paste, and I'm going to do the motion and opacity settings. All right, so you can see it just reframed it accordingly.
anything do anything.
Now, what we might want to do, what might be a good idea, we got these small little pieces right here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get rid of that and just drag this over. Same thing, just eliminated an extra cut. Now what we might want to do is actually start zoomed in a little bit more, or zoomed out a little, or yeah, zoomed in a little bit more, and just zoom out, oh, not opacity, and just zoom out a little. Okay. No. The gardeners. Yes, we will do a dissolve. So I kind of like that. Maybe if we affect it, I don't even know if I need to move, really.
Anything we used to do before.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe just that. Oh, that's going to be so annoying. Sorry. They're right in my front yard right here.
York Sunday puzzle too. I don't do anything we used to do before. If it reminds me of
Okay. And we'll come back to it. Just looking for another opportunity here. Okay. Now let me see. Maybe in that little bass section right there might be kind of nice. And I wonder, that might be an opportunity to bring in the G12 here during that little bass run. Hey, Ihajo. iTorrent, blowing some leaves. That's right. Oh, Demon Wolf, you want me to do a zoom? Alright, we can do a little bit of a zoom. I want to get this little... Okay. Cut it right there.
Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, just so you can get what I've seen in the mirror. Cause
Okay, I want out before that last bass hit. Okay, so right about there. Okay. Now this we're totally going to have to reframe for sure. So let's rescale it for one thing so I can kind of see what's happening. Alright, so we got to be at least there. Ooh. right about there. All right. And then maybe do a very slow, push, just to kind of emphasize. I mean, again, this stuff is sort of obscured there, but so you'll just see my hands a little bit better. So maybe set a scale keyframe right here. All right. I don't want a lot of movement, you know. It's a shortcut for one. So, and I don't want to lose. Whoops. I don't want to. I don't want to lose too much of the base head there. I'm already losing a little bit. And you don't want too much movement either, because then it's going to look weird. Alright. Now why didn't it set the keyframe there? Okay, set that. I'll go down to 60 here. Alright. And we'll do a little ease out. And we'll do a Bezier. Ease out. And then have it ease in. Bezier, all right. All right, and then we'll transition to the other. Yeah, right, Saylan. I know this is really irritating. I'm sorry. Here, let me, you know what? Here, I'm going to mute myself for a second. Just hold on. I'm going to put some music on for you. Just hold on 1 second.
Love you.
All right, yeah, that's all right, I messed up the framing a little bit there. Okay, that's all right. So we'll set this scale at the minimum has to be 61. Alright. And probably there, because I'm on this camera, we want to switch this over to camera 1. Oh my god, that is really loud. No, I cry.
Used to do before. If it reminds me of
How is this going to work? You love my voice. They are so close to my office right here. It looks like Twister out there. A lot of desert brush kicking up. All right, good time for a question. Bet Coppola didn't have this to deal with when making Finian's Rainbow. You're right. Yeah. Right. All right, Admiral Shane, you've got a 27-inch 5K Retina with 32 gigs i7 and 4 gig GF upscale 1080p. Took an hour and 15 to export 1 minute of footage. 1080p works for me just fine. Yeah, I mean, and by the way, that's, you know, that's not that's certainly not unheard of. You know, I tweeted over the weekend that these upscales took about 11 hours. You know, and there's Lumetri applied, and it's, yeah, it's roughly, when you do, I've noticed with 4K upscale from 1080, it's not exactly the same depending if you're going from different formats, but from 1080 to 4K, assuming just a straight upscale, I added Lumetri and a LUT, so there's a little bit more math going on there. It's usually, it depends, but on my system, it's about an hour. It's about an hour per minute, or maybe an hour. about 2 hours per minute for an upscale, and that can vary. Sometimes it's an hour per minute. It just really depends, I guess. I don't know why sometimes, and it depends on drives and everything else. This is all, again, this footage is sourced on an older, it's USB 3, but it's an older spinning drive. Dang those M&M factories. No, so Minecraft, I didn't use a 4K camera, so these are 4K upscales. So this was all done with Detail Preserving Upscale in After Effects. So your system is very close. Yeah, now I have 16 gigs of RAM, you've got 32, you've got 4 gigs on an ATI card, right? And I've got 2 gigs on an NVIDIA. So I have the benefit of CUDA, but you also have the benefit of OpenCL. All right, while this is all going on, I'm going to silence my microphone. I'm going to get some coffee and pause for the cause, and we'll come back and hopefully they'll be done in this general area here. Don't they know? All right. So I will be back in just a moment. Don't leave. We're making progress here, and we've already brought in some of that 4K. The next step, as you can see, because we're towards the end now, is going back to that previous take and cutting some of that stuff in and messing around with optical flow to do a little bit of time remapping, just to kind of mask the section there. So I'm going to mute. I'll be right back. Don't leave. See you in a few seconds.
Yeah. I screwed up a lot on the one before that.
That's the essence of live music, right, Fuzzy? And that's...
Right.
Well, Vicky, that's what we're all about, right? So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're having fun in New York. And hope we can catch you next time.
Yeah, hoping to see you.
All right, take care. All right, little live me and Fuzzy there. Slice Media. Oh, take me back to Tennessee, please. I cut my teeth in the music biz in Nashville. They were good times. Oh my god. It's actually giving me a headache. It's so loud. So, Legacy. What mic do I recommend that is cheap but good for streaming? Well, as we were talking about before, Legacy, hold on, let me bring this down. you know, I don't know how much you want or have to spend. You know, if you're a Mac user, as I was saying, for streaming, the Apple earbuds, as we just proved in the Audio 101 hour before, at the beginning of my stream today at 9, the earbuds are great. I mean, they really are. And I know even a lot of the streamers here on the Adobe channel. Voodoo Val, I've seen Voodoo Val use the earbuds. I've used the earbuds when I'm on location. I think Cody Bear uses them. They're shockingly good, you know. So if you've got an iPhone, iPad, you already have those. And if you've got a Mac, they can work great. Outside of that, you know, a lot of the USB... I don't know so much about the headset mics, but a lot of the USB sort of standalone microphones they're all pretty good today. The headset ones, as we also determined today on the stream, some of them are, you know, by design. Some of them are more like meant for speech, you know, like specifically speech. So they're kind of mid-rangey. There's not a lot of bass. There's not a lot of clarity, but they're intelligible because they sort of cut through. There's also, you know, again, if you're going sort of USB or XLR, Rode, I didn't mention Rode before, MXL, they make a whole series of mics that are inexpensive and very good. Certainly good enough for streaming, you know. So let's see. Oh yeah, Sliced, yep. Slice Media, Rode NT USB, yep. That's that one's been around for a while, I think, and it's I've said before, I've got two different Rode mics. One of the original video mic, and then another one. And yeah, for the price, I mean, kind of hard to beat. You know, some are a little brighter than others. Some you really need to try it with your voice to see. But yeah, I gotta trust crap thing. Yeah, so I would check those out for sure. But if you do have access to those earbuds, or any earbuds with a microphone on it, try those first. Sometimes those are really good because they're meant to be able to sort of intelligibly display voice, you know, so and sound in general. So they're sometimes shockingly really good. But yeah, the wand chooses the wizard, Harry. Oh, can you? What's happening there? Oh, I just saw a lizard go flying. No joke. Flying lizard. A lot of lizards in this part of the world. All right. Okay. So while I'm here in Premiere, let me do what I was going to do a moment ago. So I'm going to add another video track. I'm simply going to grab the grade and stick it over top of these other clips, because again, as you can see, both the 70 and the G12 upscales were exported to 4K with the input LUT, so they're already flat. So what that means is, again, when I cut to them, the same grade that will be applied to everything else will be applied to these automatically. It's going to work great. Everything's going to look nice. Let's just wind back and take a look at those transitions, because what I often will do as well, and I'll show you this here too. So because I might actually want to use a cross dissolve between these clips. A lot of moles here. I hate them. If I catch another one in my garden, I'm going to bury it alive. That's pretty sick, Ian. Could you really bury a mole alive? Wouldn't it just burrow itself out of there? Or were you thinking like in a box? That's gross. No. Please be kind to animals. All right. No, I know moles are there. When did we have moles? When I lived in Antioch, Tennessee, I think. Funny, pretty gross little creatures, but you know, sort of have those cute / gross moments, you know. Okay, where am I? Take a look here, because what I will often do when I'm flying in other media into a multicam cut is I will often then, and this is why I left this blank track in between, because what I will typically do, and here I didn't do this now. I will also, if I'm doing a cut like that, I usually try and color them differently so I can see. I'll often place a cut in the multicam timeline in the same place and just move this one down so that I can crossfade between them. And then move the other clips up. So, in fact, why don't I do that? So I'll just place a cut here. And place a cut there. Okay. Drag these up. Now this track, is there anything on here? I don't think there's anything on there at all. Yeah, no, there's nothing on there anyway. So I've disabled that. And then I'll take this. And just drop that down there. So now we can apply the transition between the two. Except carrots. Yes. No, I knew you were a kind soul, and I wouldn't have thought otherwise. You need a live music bar stream again, Sliced? Piano music every day. Hey, thanks. Yeah, it was great fun. And by the way, it's available on the VOD as well as on my YouTube channel. It is 1109. Happens to be a lucky number for me. Also the former address of my apartment building in Boston. But thank you for joining me today, Beetlejace. Please follow me here on Twitch, Beetlejace, for more audio and video. And, as Sliced just mentioned, live piano music. I bet behind that wall there are people from Sony Vegas. Oh, that's funny, Mad Nibs. Could be. I haven't used Vegas in so long. It's been a really long time. Yes, Lalu. Those are my gardeners are here today, Mondays. I always kind of forget that. All right, so let's take a look, and then we'll probably apply. And in fact, here, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the grades back on this footage. Not the grades, the input LUTs, because it's driving me crazy seeing them like that. Okay, so now everything will have a uniform look. So let's see how this cut together before we add a transition going to the zoom. All right, and we should be able to play this without too much hassle. All right, let's take a look.
Anymore, I don't share my New York town Sunday puzzle too. I don't do anything we used to do before. If it reminds me, dear.
Okay, so we're dropping quite a few frames here. So that looked pretty good. I think if I add a little, let's do a little transition on this. Not a super long one. A little film dissolve on there. We'll make it a little bit longer. We're just coming out of one, so you want to be careful not to kind of have them too close together. And then, while I'm at it, let's just do a quick render on this. And I don't even think we need one going out. I liked it kind of just cutting away quickly. And while we have the option here, let's actually see it with all the graded effects. So I'm just going to quickly render the entire work area. This is going to take a second, but it's not a very long section, so it shouldn't take too long. You can see just so much nicer. I really love, really like the grade that I did on Friday, because it neutralized all those greens and harsh yellows, but really emphasized kind of the warmth of the skin tone and everything. And I think it looks pretty nice. Lalu. Yeah, well, over time, my friend. Yeah. IRE, speaking of sound cards again, I'm a student and on a really tight budget. There are plenty of less than $50 PCI cards available. What disadvantages could they have when compared to $100 and higher cards? I don't have superhero hearing abilities. So, excellent question. So, as I was saying before, and as we're in the process of rendering here, What are the disadvantages of a PCI card versus a USB? So advantage of a USB, let's take advantages, is that you can move it around. So let's say, like me, like I tend to edit not always in the same place on the same gear. Even for our Twitch takeovers at Adobe, I tend to bring my external devices with me. Something that's a little less easy to do when you're working with a PCI card. Outside of that, just the portability of it, there aren't too many disadvantages. I can give you one advantage, however, of a PCI Express card, which is that they tend to have lower latency by default, right? Because the PCI bus is already fast. Whereas with USB 2, USB 3, Firewire, the bus speeds vary.
I don't do anything we used to do before.
Ooh.
If it reminds me of
Look at that.
I don't do anything we used to do before.
I wish it didn't happen in Lorraine, but pretty slick. Oh, that looks pretty good. Now maybe it needs a little bit of zoom. The problem is I think we're all zoomed out, right? Yeah, I'm at 99% because this was from 1080. Because if I can't really zoom out much because I think I'm at like right at the edge there. So maybe if I start zoomed in and end up here, that'll make it look a little better. But that looks pretty good. Anyway, so what I was getting at was, so the PCI card is, by default, it's already going to have a little bit lower latency, which means to you, if you saw like the voice recording thing I was doing before, or just talking about buffer settings, it means you can set buffers lower, which means you're going to have better real-time performance. And that's a benefit, really, that's a huge benefit of PCI over external, certainly USB and Firewire. Now with Thunderbolt 2, I noticed immediately when I moved to this newer Focusrite card half a year ago, it's almost like PCI bus speed. There's almost no latency at all anymore. USB 2 devices, they can vary, especially if you have a combo of USB 2, USB 3 devices on your machine, and if the ports are I know with the PCs, often you'll have specific USB 2 inputs and USB 3 inputs for the purpose of not slowing a bus down, right? A lot of times, if you plug a USB 2 device into a USB 3 port where you have USB 3 devices, now everything's working at USB 2 speed. Like it automatically kind of slows everything down. So, PCI, there's really no downside to it except portability and just accessing the card, I can't say there's not a lemon out there. I'm sure there might be, but overall, if you've got it, the other thing too is that it also gets a benefit is that it gets stuff off the desktop. Like that's kind of one of the nice things. And if you don't have to change the connections a lot, that's a benefit too. Now, one thing to be careful of with the PCI cards though, and I didn't talk about this, but it's worth mentioning. PCI cards typically, most of them, not all, but most will only have like the mini plug inputs. Whoops. How could that happen? Whoops, that camera. This size, right? So this is mini jack, versus this is called 1/4 inch jack. This is 1/8 inch jack. Does size matter? Size matters a little in terms of input because, again, when you've got mini plug, by default, these are not the best connections. They're also not what are known as balanced connections. So they can be a little noisier if you're plugging into the card. Now, some of them have 1/4 inch. Some of them have dongles that will give you XLR and other ways to connect into the card. I know the Sound Blasters years ago used to have that. Like some of the more expensive, and by that I mean they were still only $79, $89, but they'd have a little, the card that went into your PCI slot that popped out of the machine. It had like its own little proprietary connector. You connected a dongle to that, and on the dongle there was a 1/4" input, an RCA input, and a mini plug input. So those are the kind of things you probably want to look for based on whatever your sound needs are. Output is the same, you know. If you've only got mini plug outputs, but your 5.1 listening system or whatever has 1/4" or something else, now you're having to adapt everything. You know, that isn't, that's not always going to give you the best quality. All right. Mycraft, Jason's Tech Tips. Absolutely. So something to think about there. Did that make sense, IRE? Did that help? So those are the things you want to think about. I mean, really, like I said, there's really no con to the PCI version, really. I mean, again, aside from portability, except that you need to be more aware of the options on the card. The other thing too is that if it does use a dongle or if it does have connections on the card, sometimes they're pretty loose and wonky. You know, you want to. And whereas with the external USB devices, they're, you know, a little more solid. I think you just need to check out a few and see what kind of fits best for your situation. And all right, so let's see here. Yeah, see, I don't want to cut off the head. Maybe 101. And what did I say? 99? Right at the edge here. We'll ease in. We'll ease out. Continuous Bezier. Okay. Now this is not obviously going to play right now. So maybe we'll do another quick re-render on this. All right, just a little bit of movement there. Maybe it's okay. We shall see. All right, let's render that piece again. Yes, it really helped. Excellent. But I think I was also asking about PCI versus PCI, just comparing different price ranges. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So PCI to PCI, I mean, again, your price range is really going to be, it's all about number of inputs and number of outputs. So as I said, some of them will have, you know, like the Sound Blaster was one of the first actually that had like a 5.1 PCI bus card. It was great, but it was all mini plug. You know, so if you had like one of those consumer, like what were then, I don't even know if they make those things anymore, but you know, they'd have computer sound speakers, and it had like a little sub and 2 little satellites and 2 little front speakers in a center, and they all connected with mini plug, mini jack, perfect, you know. But like the setup I had was using proper connectors and RCAs, so it was like adapting everything. And it was kind of just a drag, and it was more cables, and then the dongle was hanging off the back of the card, which, you know, could get ripped out if it's not really, you know, carefully managed. It's that kind of stuff, you know.
I don't do anything we used to do before. If it reminds me, dear,
that looks pretty nice, I think.
I don't do anything we used to do before. If it reminds me, dear.
Nice. And again, we cut back to the same shot, but because of that upscale, it looks nice and clean. It reveals more of that moiré, of course. But I think that looks pretty neat. And with the grade and everything on top of it, it just feels right. How long does a render have to be before you quit doing the zoom sound effects? Oh, personally, no, those go on all day. I have to sometimes tell myself to stop. I have a young son, and he is a big time voice character. and sound effects too. Wonder where he got it from. And I was listening to him just the other day, and it got very complex. There was like all kinds of stuff going on. It was pretty funny. Okay, so let's cut this other one in. I think we got to cut in a few more, and then we got to figure out the ending here. So let's make this Rose. All right, Rose nose. And we'll do the same thing. Oh, interesting. This film dissolve went right to the end there. Okay, so let's do a cut right here. And do a cut right here. And let's lift this out of there. Drag that down into there. And let's see what that looks like. Am I in? I can't remember if I'm in software or GPU. I am. Okay. I am known for my sound effects. That is definitely true. Certainly in the Adobe world. When we used to do these big stage shows, it was pretty funny because it became such a thing that, you know, it was like if I didn't do them, people would get pretty pissed off. All right, here, take a listen. Let's look at this and see how this goes. This might be a little weird because we've got this. We're coming out of a dissolve, but let's see. I may even need to do a quick render on this just to, yeah, let's do that. Let's do a quick render on the transition here. It's really pretty fast when you have to do that. Do sound effects at IBC or Riot? Yes, yes, exactly. IBC is where it became sort of a thing, and it was actually at IBC years ago. I remember I was doing a, I'll never forget the session. Hold on, it's going to start playing in a second here. I'll come back. Thinking again of you. Okay, yeah, see, that's weird. Thinking again. I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. So I'm thinking instead of this here, let's get rid of this clip. Let's bring this back and let's do the transition there and see how that goes. The session was reversioning mono and stereo for 5.1 surround. All right, very specific. And I was doing this whole thing with placing stuff in all these various speakers from sourced mono and stereo material. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I wasn't doing the sound effects. And somebody was like, hey, what the hell? You know, and people started getting kind of annoyed. Oh, Ian. All right. Well, hey, catch you later. Thanks, as always, man, for coming by. Definitely see you Friday. Pip, pip. Thank you so much for that. All right. So let's see. Here, we'll do a quick little re-render on that, on the work area. So I just removed, it was cutting to camera 2 or camera 1. Now it'll cut from this main camera to the zoomed version. Oh, and you know what? Here, we need to also, we had some movement, but I had it start later. So we want that to start earlier, right to the edge there. All right. So let's see. I'm drinking again. Whoops. Thinking. Do that again. It's getting stuck. I didn't turn the grade and stuff back on. This is just to see the cut itself. Thinking again of you. Cause if I reminisce about all thinking again, I think that's okay. Thinking again of you. Cause if I reminisce about all thinking again of you. I actually like the dissolve, that slow dissolve into the push. I think that looks good. You know, that's again a pretty typical technique. And you know, we're not going super crazy on the scale here, but I think that definitely works. And once the grade is applied, it's going to look really great. And then I like just the cut. You know, all right. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is where we're out of. Are we out of camera 2 there at 6:16? Let's see.
I'm drinking again.
Where did we lose it?
Thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce,
Yeah, it's right about there.
about all the things we used to do.
So really, this should be. I should cut back to that.
We just you can get what I've been in the mirror. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things.
All right. Move this cut over here. Just give us that camera 2 for a little bit longer, because then we're out of camera 2.
'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do.
All right, now it's barfing. So here. Let's see it again.
Thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do. Thinking again
Yeah. You know, honestly, I'm almost wondering if
of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do.
I don't even know if this cut. Does it make sense to go back to that camera from the zoom? It's kind of nice. Do you see why? Because I turn my head, and it almost it implies that this is like a different camera, even though it's the same, just at a different zoom level. So the color looks a little bit different there. Pull down the highlights a little bit there. Did you guys see that? Yeah, a little warmer too. Again, that's the upscale. So it's okay. Slightly different. Spaghetti sliced. Okay. Never fails. Look at this. What is it with these stopped frames? Okay. So we only cut this in twice. We need to do a little bit more. So let's wind back here and take a look at the previous take. Oh yeah, and where does it end? Where did I say?
My pillow, honey, that would never do. I'm drinking again.
Honey, that would never do. Okay, it's that last verse.
But I've forgotten you now. It ain't productive just to hang in.
Okay, now we're going to go back to the previous take here.
I used to like you, really used to like you. I got over that somehow.
You know, it's funny. I've never been one who wanted to work on multiple monitors. But I found lately, because you constantly see me doing this, right? I'm constantly making the timeline panel full screen, and then adjusting things here, and then going back out. It might now. I may have just pushed myself into wanting to have dedicated monitors, because I do this in Audition too when remixing. There's so much resuming of the UI. It's almost like, yeah, and if I just had it open full screen the whole time, I wouldn't have to be fussing around with that. Especially because with video, you're constantly adding, again, like overlays and things like that, where you're having to resize the tracks and kind of get in and out easily. I think I may have just sold myself on one. I've never wanted a multiple monitor setup. I don't find that I'm very comfortable using it, actually. Probably because I haven't done it a lot, but I think it's time. Okay, multiple screens.
I'm drinking again.
Okay, hold on. This is gonna drive me nuts. It's my fault. Stupid drive. Stupid. Oh. There we go.
Thinking again of you. 'Cause if I
Yeah, that's worse. Okay. It's going to be hard to finish this last section here if I can't get my playback better.
I'm drinking again, thinking again.
I'm gonna be. All right.
Of you. 'Cause if I
Oh, by the way, this brings up a good point too, about fractional playback. So you'll see that based on the frame size that you're editing in, you're not going to have all of the options available to you. At 1080, I don't believe I've ever seen this go to 1/8. So I think at 1080, you're limited to a max of 1/4. When you get into 4K and beyond, then you start to see 1/8 and 1/16. And you might think, oh my God, how could I view something at 1/16 resolution? Well, when you're in 6K, shockingly, even though you're seeing 1/16 the amount of pixels, if you're in a window this size, I mean, imagine your UI, right? It still looks amazing. Like it's, you wouldn't grade it at 1/16. You almost could because it looks so good because there's so much detail there. But at 1080, so if you're ever wondering, like, how come I can't get to 1/8 or 1/16? I don't, maybe 1/8 in some scenarios for 1080, but generally you can go down to 1/4. And then when you start introducing 4K timelines, that's when you'll see some of those subsequent options. All right. Okay, so yeah, let's do. I want to cut to one of these in this beginning section here. I mean, I like it. It's just a couple straight cuts, but I think we've got some need to do some zooming.
I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do.
Maybe there. Maybe for that little section. So instead of this cut here, I think we're going to do a 4K on that. So again, I'm just going to line these up. Here's the 7D cam. I'm going to cut this, same spot. Shift down arrow to go to the next cut, same spot. Let's lift this out of there. Whoops. Let's lift this out of there. Let's drag this down into there. Label it rose. Or whatever color I was using before. And let's see where we are with this. Oh, we got to bring the opacity up. Bzz, like that. All right. And again, we'll do a little repositioning. Now I could maybe even do, we do a pan, a slow, super slow. I mean, it's a short clip. So, not a lot going on, but just I'm trying to think. If we come out of this and then move to the left and then move back, that might be kind of nice. All right. Let's see. Does PR still render the full resolution when you stop the playhead? Yes, it does, Boyfruit. Now that again is entirely dependent on your settings, and there's even a new checkbox that absolutely ensures via Mercury that you have every pixel for pixel at its highest quality. So when you stop, if you want to make sure that you have everything at full res, your paused resolution needs to be set to full. And again, by default, I generally work at like 1/4 for playback, full for pause. But this is this new setting here. This was introduced in November or January, whichever update that was. High quality playback. When this is unchecked, it's not, if you're at full res pause or full res play, it doesn't mean that what we found through the GPU, there were some discrepancies. So this basically forces everything is pixel for pixel perfect, highest quality, at the expense of potentially a heavier load on your GPU CPU depending upon your configuration. So this will ensure that everything you're seeing is exactly what, if you're exporting to like a mezzanine codec like a ProRes 444 or DNxHR, this is what you want on when you're monitoring playback. And I keep it on all the time now. In fact, by disabling it, I may actually get better performance now, although the timelines are getting kind of heavy. But so yes, short answer is yes. Make sure your pause setting is at full, and then make sure that box is checked as well.
Thing we used to do.
Yeah, and actually you can see right away, already my scrubbing is that much faster. Okay? Because I'm trying to push all this 4K in a multicam, it's a bit much. So what do you think? A slight move? Left, right? Is that gonna work? At all, you think? Kind of cheap. It's kind of cheap. I don't know. The problem is I don't know that we can get far enough in that. I mean, you don't want to do that. That looks like bad 90s Ken Burns panning. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe, you know what? I have an idea. So maybe we do this. Leave the scale, but actually change the vertical. We'll do a tilt instead. All right. I'm going to set a position keyframe. Whoops. I did it again. Set a position keyframe. I hope I just didn't screw something else up. Come to the end here. That's a lot of movement. Yeah, I don't know. That might look kind of cheesy. We're gonna have to see. So let's auto Bezier it, and we'll do an ease out. And we'll do an ease into this keyframe here. Actually, I'm not going to ease it in because it's going to be, it'll be just a straight cut. All right, so let's see.
All the thing we used to do. I could weep like a willow, crying to my pillow.
Not bad.
And it's about all the thing we used to do. I could weep like a willow.
And maybe on this, we do a slight scale increase for the duration of this clip. Again, not a lot, just enough to show some movement. All right. I want that Beziered. And this one we'll ease into, but this one we're not going to ease out though. All right. So let's see.
Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, I could weep like a willow, crying
short
to my
and sweet.
pillow.
All right. So yeah, that's doing all right. Hey, you know what would probably be a good idea? Save as. Right. A little bit of saving. All right. Yeah, I mean that's a lot. It's a lot of movement. I don't know. It's very, again, unfortunately, there's just not so much to play with here. Now, what I might do if I were doing an After Effects, really kind of almost boomerang the motion a little bit more. It's almost a little too, it's like it's too much. There's too much movement. Although I kind of like it, but it just, I don't know.
'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, I could weep like a willow, crying to...
Okay, and that one's moving too. So, all right. Now here, what I want to do is, I was going to say, it doesn't look like it's actually, it's stopping before the end, and it was. So you see I'm just dragging the keyframe there so that as that stops moving, the next one continues moving.
I could weep like a willow, crying.
And because there's no ease on this, it just starts moving from the get-go. It's not slowly ramping out of the gate. So that's, again, just for a little consistency there.
I could weep like
oh yeah, we got 17 minutes till Jonah's coming up.
Honey, that would never do. I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. I don't go walking in the rain anymore. I don't share my New York Times Sunday puzzle too. I don't do anything we used to do before. If it reminds me, dear, of you, I'm drinking again, thinking again of you. 'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do.
Okay, so yeah, right there.
'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used.
No reason to cut back to this little section right here, right? So let's get rid of this. And and that's all we have of that one there. Yeah, let's just cut back to this shot right here.
'Cause if I reminisce about all the things we used to do, I could weep like a willow, crying to my pillow. Honey, that would never do. I'm drinking again, thinking again of you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to set a marker right here. I used to like you, maybe used to like you. Da, 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 da. And let's go to this other section over here.
You really,
Look at that, I found it right away.
really, we gotta see how. I used to like you, really used to like you. I got over that somehow.
Okay. Now how do I want to do this exactly? So we're going to go to the other take. Let's go here. And I'm just going to go to the previous one. The reason I was using the audio there is because I knew kind of where it was. Hey, Polly213. All right, so if we go back to, what am I doing? Composite. Let's just fit this in the window here. Okay. Set a little in on that. Let's go back to the audio here. So I'm going to do a little in-out on this. All right. Out right there. Oops. Okay, actually, I don't even have to do that because I'm just going to drag it in here anyway. Okay. So let's go back to composite. Let me just make sure my targets are correct. I'm going to stick it in 3. And let's add one more track here. So video 4. Okay. This should hopefully go where I want it to go. All right. I got over this.
I'm drinking again, thinking again of you.
All right, right there. Okay, now again, this is not, it's not the same clip. So, you know, the reality is this going to automatically like fly in and look good? You know, probably not. But I think we can play with it and get something going. All right, to cut to. Even if we have to obscure it a bit and again affect it, just to have something that kinda sorta works. Now, one thing I want to look at here as well is even though that these are unrelated, and by the way, I'm going to color these differently too, so that cerulean. It's not really quite different enough. I used violet already? No. Okay, we'll use violet. This is really in an effort to sort of be able to cut back to this. Right? The sync is not going to be perfect because it's a different take, but somewhat similar, and maybe there's just enough that we can sort of play with, and maybe it works.
I used to like you, really used to like you. I got over that somehow. I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Now, did you see what I just did right there? I flew it in, I moved it, I was just looking at the audio, guessing it kind of where this was going to go. I mean, it's not exact because first of all, we're not playing with a click. It's never going to be exact. We're humans with human time, but holy crap. I mean, that was almost perfect just by edging it in there.
I used to like you, really used to like you. I got over that somehow. I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Did you guys see that? What's up, Cosmic Chord? Hey, Elsie Finch. Everyone's speechless. Totally different take. Now, this is something which I say a lot about blues cats. These guys, human metro, I know, right? When you've got me anchoring and blues cat who, you know, plays, they have kind of their own internal rhythm for their tunes. They're almost identical, time-wise, you know, without a count-in, without any, just let's feel it. And we felt it the same way twice, you know, very, very close. So point being, the first couple of lines were not so right on.
I used to like you, really used to like
This
you.
is a little
I
off.
got over that somehow. I thought about you.
Now, right there, I thought about you. I mean, honestly, maybe it's a frame off, but it's so close. It's, you know.
I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
And he's actually singing a slightly different lyric there. But I think there's enough to cut to. Now, I can still slide this and adjust it as needed. But honestly, I think this is pretty awesome. So I think we'll cut it in. Here, let's do this.
I used to like you, really used to like you. I got over that somehow.
All right, so right there. In fact, do a little cut right there. Opacity drop right there.
I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
All right, and I'm playing a slightly different bass line as well. Wolfie Munchkin. Thank you. You see it, Rulu. Yes, do slow-mo section like in action films. Now I will. The thing is, this particular section, it's not perfect, but it's almost so in time.
I thought about you, always thought about you.
And now it's... The fans are barfing and farting here. I hate you, stupid fans. Just play already, you suck. By the way, I yell at my gear all the time, so don't think that's anything weird. No, but it really is. It's like it's so darn close. We're definitely going to slow-mo it a little bit. And hello, Taria. Hello, Tinty.
Like you, I got over that somehow. I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Yeah, maybe I'll just slip it a little bit. I'll slip it. Let's just slip it back just a little. Let's see.
I thought about you,
Maybe one more frame.
I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Cool. All right, I'm gonna cut right there. All right, go full screen here. I got over that somehow. Let's cut here. Let's cut here. Let's lift this sucker out of there. All right, and let's drag this dude down there. Can't you see what I'm having down? All right. Play already. Suck. What more fun is there than shouting at inanimate objects, you know? I swear, it's fun time. And I want to emphasize again, because someone pinged me after the stream and they're saying, oh, it was funny, we're rendering 4K, so the render is going on the whole time, which, by the way, is using GPU to speed up the render. Then we're in here, we're cutting this from scratch, we were remixing the audio. All of this was dynamically linked, so everything was live, unrendered, and the playback started to slow down a bit, right? And I was getting kind of, annoyed. Ultimately, it all worked, and nothing crashed. I mean, it was great, but of course, I was bitching about it anyway. And that's the funny thing is someone saying, dude, you were exporting 4K using GPU. You were playing back multiple streams while multicam cutting with a dynamically linked live soundtrack with 32-bit audio effects while adding input LUTs and Lumetri color, and it was still playing at all. He goes, it's kind of and you're not using like an SSD RAID system. That's pretty awesome. And I go, yeah, it is. I know it is. It doesn't mean I don't still shout at things, But no, it's really cool. Hey, man. Yeah, pitching fits. I mean, that's, as zen as I am, I certainly get frustrated when gear isn't doing what I want. That's for sure. But this is darn impressive. So here, let's take a quick look at this.
I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Now I could probably get out before that word change.
Always thought about you. Can't you see that
because it does look a little fake at the end there.
Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Yeah. But it's otherwise perfectly in sync. I mean, it's shocking.
Can't you see that I
wanting you now? All right, so let's do that. Let's cut back over to here. Let's wind it back here. Sup, Matya17. Samsung SSD T3 would be adequate for 4K. Yeah, I mean, I don't know specifically the SSD T3, but are you talking just for 4K editing? I mean, yeah, an SSD internal drive or connected via Thunderbolt or whatever. Yeah, I mean, you're on the right track. SSD and 4K, those things go together wonderfully. I mean, I have an SSD internal and one very small format external, which isn't big enough for the 6 and 8K media that I have, but yeah, it'll be great. Throughput is one of the biggest issues with 4K. I mean, CPU, GPU, RAM, all that stuff matters, But if you've got slower drives or drives that are just not or that the drive bus is not capable of handling the data, yeah, that's what's gonna harm you. So yeah, SSD. Again, I can't speak directly to the SSD T3 Samsung, but it's an external 3.1 USB-C. Yeah, I mean, it's without having tried it, I'd say just on the surface, it sounds like it would be pretty ideal.
I thought about you, always thought about you. Can't you see that I am wanting you now?
Suck it. Right? So cool. And that's from another take, friends. Not synchronized, save for done visually.
Can't you see that I am wanting you now? It ain't productive just a hanging in bars.
All right. So we're going to have to tweak some of that end bit there, but that's nice because we're almost at the... Look at this. We've got... Where are we? 48, 648, and the tune officially ends at 7:02. So we've got 14 more seconds to fill with maybe one or two cutaways, and we're done. This has been awesome. I really appreciate that. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's been you really watched me do this. I mean, I'm not a super fast editor. I spend a lot of time on very small, minuscule things. And it's an amazing little form factor for about $99. You get a 120 gig version. It goes all up to 2 terabytes. Yeah. I mean, 125 gig for 4K. Don't even bother. That you saw here. I've got 2 clips. They're both 16 gigs. So that's not going to do you any good because you want at least half of the available free space, half of the total available space free as a best practice when cutting. So that would mean you need 62.5 gigs unused to really get the best asynchronous access. But yeah, otherwise pretty cool. So, hey Rulu, I'm glad you lurked. Very cool. Thank you everyone for joining me. Okay, we've got Jonah Loeb coming up, so he's coming up now. I'm going to be back on my channel in approximately 30 minutes. In fact, I may just sign in and kind of leave a coming soon screen up so you guys know I'll be coming back. But I'll be back on my channel, so stick around if you want to see a little bit more of this edit on my channel, maybe do some music as well. Thank you for joining me. Here on the Adobe channel, we'll be back with Audio 101 Basics Part 2, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.